I'm a teacher over.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. We're going to begin our program. Y'all feel so far away. It's good. Thanks for coming up front. Well, hello and welcome to our Blue Zones Project Petaluma office and community space. My name is Nicole Warwick. I'm the executive director of our Blue Zones Project Petaluma. On behalf of the team and our colleagues, it is my great pleasure to welcome you here this evening. I know as you're coming in, please just come on in. A little housekeeping before the event begins. I just want to bring your awareness to the fact that we have dinner served for you at the back of the office, food from Aquas Cafe. Also, Ethan, raise your hand, please. Behind Ethan is a door. That door will take you to the restroom. If you need to use the restroom, there is childcare available if your little one gets restless and wants to play. Jennifer's raising her hand in the back. We have a room set up with fun activities to do. This is a real treat to have you all here and to collaborate with all of our partners in making this happen. And as a courtesy, we'd like to invite you to silence your telephone. Great. And just know at any point in time, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. Then what will happen is the facilitator will listen to your question and repeat it back, because we're also hosting this event as a hybrid event. So we have our friends joining us online. And so being able to repeat that question, make sure that they're a part of our conversation with us. Okay. Well, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Matthew Ingram from Healthy Petaluma District and Foundation.
Thanks, Nicole. Good evening. I'm Matthew Ingram. I'm from Healthy Petaluma. I'm the Director of Community Impact. I'm so grateful to have all of you here tonight. We're really pleased to be doing this. I'm also the parent of 2 kids here in Petaluma City Schools, aged 11 and 14. So this is very relevant to me. So it's a real honor to have my organization, Healthy Petaluma, supporting this kind of work. We're here with some great community partners. We have some local nonprofit organizations that are presenting, that are experts tonight. So I'm personally very excited for this, and I'm glad to have all of you here, including those of you who are here online. This speaker series really came directly from kind of comments and feedback and actually requests from the community for this sort of support. We're all trying to navigate this as parents and as a community. And so we wanted to respond to that in a meaningful way. So we've spent many months pulling this together. It's our first time doing anything like this. We are going to do another session next week, same time, same place, Wednesday, dinner at 5, program at 5:30 for middle school students and their caregivers. So we suggest if you know anyone or you have any kids more in that age range. I'm also bringing my freshman in high school. I think that he could benefit from it too. So I'd recommend coming to that session. It's interesting to think about technology and how to navigate it. Some of the smartest, most highly paid, best brains in the world, in our country, are working very hard due to the attention economy to get our kids' eyes on screens as much as they possibly can. And that's something to be aware of and to be thinking about. And at its worst, that can look like addiction. And at its best, that's hard to kind of grapple with the power of technological tools and the platforms and how they engage our kids and their attention. So we're here to learn about how to manage that tonight. And we're really trying to start this conversation. We don't expect to necessarily finish it or solve the problems, but start the conversation tonight with some experts to present. So Healthy Petaluma, just a quick note, our mission is to improve the health and well-being of everyone here in Southern Sonoma County. So that means physical health, but also, of course, emotional and behavioral health. So we recommend you check out our website, healthypetaluma.org. There's a newsletter. We can promote all of the work that we do there. So I want to introduce, we have some incredible speakers here tonight from ScreenSense. First, I want to introduce Dabney Ingram. Dabney, She's the executive director of Screen Sense, which is a North Bay nonprofit that helps local families and caregivers navigate the hard questions that come with parenting in today's digital world. Her background is in healthy child and adolescent development, and she has a PhD in education. She's also a parent of 3 kids, 2 high schoolers, and a college freshman, so she knows firsthand the struggle of parenting around tech. We also have Alex Tower Ewers, the Director of Communication at Screen Sense. Hi, Alex. Her background is in holistic health education, and her passion is building community in school settings and parent groups. She's the parent of 2 teen boys, 13 and 16 years old. I want to thank our partners at Blue Zones Project Petaluma for hosting us in this beautiful space, providing the food along with Aquas for doing everything that they do to convene us so well. Also want to thank the Petaluma Educational Foundation for their support in this event in lots of different ways over the past several months. A few quick housekeeping notes for everyone here and for those joining us online. So the session will run till roughly 6:30 p.m. We are recording it. We'll be sharing the recording and slides after the fact and emailing it to all registrants so that they can see this on YouTube if they want to share this or view it again. We are translating in real time in Spanish. Please use the chat for questions. We'll be answering live at the end, and we may reply to some in writing. Please bear with us if we experience any technical issues, although so far so good. Spanish interpretation is available online. Click the globe icon on your Zoom toolbar and select Spanish. You can return to English by doing the same thing the other way. And regarding accessibility, if you need assistance, please let us know or let our team online know through the chat. Okay. With that, I think I will turn it over to our colleagues at Screen Sense.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Just first of all, high fives on getting out here on a Wednesday night. You guys are all rock stars, so good job. And just doubling down on the gratitude for everyone involved in this amazing event. You guys are so cared for here in Petaluma. We've been to lots of communities, and this is like a very special one. So thank you. Just wanted to say, we wanted to get a quick sense of who's in the audience. So could you please raise your hand if you have a kid in TK through 2nd grade or younger? Okay. And what about 3rd grade through 5th grade? Okay. Does anyone have anyone in middle school? Okay. And then in high school? Okay. And then just to get a bit of a broader context around tech use here, and no shame here, we're just trying to get a sense of tech use. Who has TV watching happening at home? What about someone at home who loves YouTube? Okay, anyone have a kid who likes to play video games? Okay, and what about, are any of your kids using social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok? Sadly, yes. Okay, not alone. All right. Okay.
We're the only ones who said yes. I thought.
So I guess just raise your hand if tech feels like this pebble in your shoe day to day. Okay. All right. So we have a sense of who you are. Tonight, we're really going to be focusing on phones, but we just wanted to set a little bit of the context because phones are kind of one piece of this larger beast or puzzle or whatever you want to call it. So first, let's just talk about this massive tsunami that has come at us, and it's only growing. So we've got chat bots, we've got iPads, we've got video games, we've got AI. Like, it's just this thing, it's coming it's hurling into childhood, and it's completely changing the way kids are spending time and what childhood looks like. So we just want to acknowledge that. So it's kind of in some ways disoriented us a lot from kind of what childhood is about, because it's this sort of frictionless, really easy to use all the time technology has come into our lives. So, but it's here to stay for good and for bad. There's amazing upsides, there's downsides. This is all about like, how do we have a healthier relationship with this reality that we live in? And I guess the other thing we want to say is that the smaller the device, the more kind of invasive it is. So that's our start here. So let's talk about what that is looking like. So as a result, so these are averages of how much time per day kids of various ages are spending on screens. So if you look at the middle, if you look on the left side, elementary school, so anywhere between sort of 3.5 to 5.5 hours a day. On average, that's a lot of time when kids are in school and there isn't that much time, they're sleeping. And then look at the teenagers, 8.5 hours on average on screens. Okay, sorry. This has just caused a complete change in again, the use of time. So then if we look at going over to sort of phone use, about 1 in 4 kids by age 8 have a cell phone. And then on average, like the average 11-year-old is getting their first smartphone. So technology is kind of increasing and starting earlier. And then if you kind of look ahead to teens, about half of, 95% of teens have a smartphone, and about half of them report that they're on screens almost constantly. So this is very different than any of us when we were kids. It's a completely different environment, and it feels like this current reality doesn't match what experts are telling us to do, nor our intentions a lot of the time. So this excess screen time that's kind of coming in this tsunami is then crowding out these essential activities of childhood. So it's our kids are spending less time outside, less time with their friends face to face, where they learn how to communicate and read facial cues. They are spending less time exercising, and pediatricians are really attributing this to kind of the obesity epidemic and like the sedentary lifestyle of being on screens instead of running around or riding your bike outside. And then a lot of kids are not getting enough sleep. And so that means if you imagine high school classroom, a lot of teenagers are coming to school and they're sleep deprived, and then they need to be learning and managing emotions. And it's just, that's not good. So what's the result of this big shift that's happening? Across the board, we're really not in a good place, according to a lot of the research that's coming out. So academic outcomes have worsened since digital media use became so ubiquitous, and also mental health outcomes have been really not doing well. And so like rates of depression, anxiety, and self-harm have gotten worse since phone use became such a large part of our kids' days.
On top of all this data and all of the information that you just saw, there's also this layer of content that we can't ignore, and it's the content of exposure risk that is on these devices. And there are a lot of words on here that parents of elementary school might not even want to think about or have not thought about. But the reality is if our kids have access to devices that are not set up for youth use, your child will be exposed to all, if not some, if not all of these topics. And we at Screen Sense, we really don't like to linger in the doom and gloom. It's really easy to find speakers, books that really kind of keep parents afraid and stuck in this sort of, I'm going to bury my head in the sand because it's all too much and scary. And that to us doesn't feel like a practical way to get through this. And so we really want to make sure that we expose the topics that could be, because there's some gnarly stuff that is on the internet. And if you haven't seen what is available, you might want to try and take a look, because what our kids are getting in their feeds is not what we are getting in our feeds. I actually just learned the other day that the way the algorithms work, we think that the algorithm works by giving us more posts of the posts that we like to watch, but it actually is the ones that we stay the longest on. So it could be that your child, if they have access to an iPad, or if they happen to be on YouTube Shorts, which is very easily accessible on any kind of device, and they are looking at makeup tips or K-pop videos, it could be that infused in that reel is a video of somebody showing self-harm. And it could be that they stumble upon it. They don't know what they're expecting to see, but they watch it and they don't stop watching it, because it's kind of like, what is this scary thing? And so what the algorithm is doing is that it's creating more content based on that one video that they stayed longer on, not the other hundreds of K-pop videos. And so in a very short amount of time, the content that they are seeing is not what you're expecting them to see. Just really quickly, just so that people know the dangers that really are lurking on some of these apps and devices. Drug dealers are on Snapchat. Kids in high school are connecting with drug dealers in their local area. Boys and girls are faced with unrealistic body images on Instagram. TikTok videos are available teaching self-harm, and predators can very easily access underage players on video games in third-party chat options. You know, home used to be the safe space. If kids were home, we thought that's where they would be safe. But what we've basically done is left the front door open and said, come on in. It's easy to see the slides that we just showed and hear what I just had to say and think, oh, those aren't our kids. That's not our community. That's in other people's schools. But the reality is it's happening in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities. Some of what we're hearing from local school leaders is the following. We have noticed decreased attention spans, more wiggles, less stamina. Also, smartwatches are a huge disruption at school. That's from an administrator in elementary school. Middle school principal gave us this quote: "Problems stemming from social media use is our biggest discipline issue every day at school." And from a high school counselor, teen anxiety is our biggest issue on a day-to-day basis. This is happening here. We all don't know what to do about it, but the sooner we pay attention to it, the sooner we can make a change. So what do we do? For the last 10 years, it seems like we have adopted new technology sort of by default. It's new, it's fun, it's this sexy thing. And we haven't stopped to pause and think, well, how is this going to impact us? Do we want to even use this? And so the way that we kind of deal with the tsunami is to step back for a second and figure out where we have agency. And where we have agency is with ourselves. So as an individual, how do I model? How do I talk about tech? What's my relationship with my phone? As parents, we have agency in deciding how and when we allow device use. And as a community, we can actually create common ground and take a team approach to navigating the tsunami. And the one most significant choice that we as parents have is how and when to roll out a smartphone. Right, so let's dive in. Smartphones. Oftentimes there's a lot of miscommunication about phones, smartphones. We are talking about this device, this smartphone that many of you probably have in your pockets, in your bags. These are phones. They're called phones, but they're not phones. They are supercomputers that have access to the entire internet. It's not just a communication device. It's not our landlines from when we were in middle school. It is access to absolutely everything. And because of their size, they are more invasive. If these were these big laptops, you wouldn't see teenagers walking around with like a laptop. They are in use in the bathrooms, at dinner, at breakfast, while watching a movie. We call that double dipping at our house. During homework time, at recess, in the car, at bedtime, while brushing your teeth, in the middle of the night. There is no space or time anymore that is free from them. And once your kid has one, everything changes. For those of you with teenagers or middle schoolers or even elementary students who know this, you might actually agree with me. Tech is sticky. We love this image. Sort of should be our mantra image. Tech is so sticky and becomes such a slippery slope, eroding everything in its path. There's no stopping cues. Like, you've been on here too long, now go outside. Maybe we could like train AI to do this for us, that a voice comes on and says, you've been scrolling YouTube shorts too long. I'm going to turn this off. You need to go outside. That would be a nice way to use AI, actually. And it's not designed with childhood development in mind. It wants you to be on these devices as long as possible. That's what they're designed to do. They are products that in order to make money with these products, we need to stay on them as long as possible. The issue is that the adults struggle with this too. Perhaps you identify yourself as one of them. Perhaps you're sitting next to one of them. Perhaps you're married to one of them. The thing is that we as adults struggle with these, and we have fully developed brains. Imagine what it's like for kids who don't yet actually have the brain capacity to deal with this kind of self-control. So let's look for a second at kid brains. We love this image because it's really, really crystal clear. So let's take a look at this. This is brain development from ages 5 to about 17. And I don't know if you can see, but the yellow and the red shows the less mature and developed areas of the brain. Blue and purple shows the more developed areas of the brain. Here's the thing. The prefrontal cortex, the thing at the front of our brain, which is required for decision-making, risk assessment, judgment, impulse control, and self-control, which are all the things we need in order to deal with these devices, is the very last part of the brain to develop. You can see here in the 17-year-old brain that it's pretty blue and purple, but if you look at the 5-year-old brain, there's not much there. Some developmental psychologists actually say it's not until age 25. Again, those of you with older children, you might actually agree with this. Smartphones and social media are demanding strong self-regulation. And so if we go back to what Dabney shared, which is that the average 11-year-old is getting their first smartphone, and you look at the brain of a 10-year-old, you will see that the prefrontal cortex is barely developed. There's not much blue there. There's not much purple there. And so we are setting children up for failure. We are expecting them to be able to deal with these devices that they actually cannot physically deal with yet. We are setting up our relationships for tension. We are setting ourselves up for, why can't you do this? Why aren't you capable of doing this? And they actually aren't capable. That means that we're giving phones that require self-control and impulse control at a time when they have almost none. And if we could just really acknowledge that that makes absolutely no sense. Kids' brains are defenseless, and we need to protect them.
So we wanted to call attention to the fact that as society, we sort of define adulthood as age 18. And when people are under the age of 18, they're a child, and we have lots of systems in place and laws to protect them. So then, like, a glaring exception was the birth of the internet, which has this kind of utopian vision of everyone is sort of the same. And a little law came into place saying that basically treating or saying you have to be over age 13 to be on most of these products. So the internet is essentially defining 13 as adulthood, whereas the rest of us define 18 as adulthood. So we just wanted to call that out to you because we can argue that 13 is too young for all of this as well, but really it's just different than everything else and how we're set up. If you think about this moment in time, it's like when cars came out, and then it took a while before we had seatbelts, and then there were airbags, and then there was like you go through a training process to learn how to drive a car. You don't just give keys to a younger child and say like good luck, or even at age 16 like hey, good luck. So we sort of have this tsunami of tech at us, but we haven't quite set up the safeguards yet. So the question is, who is responsible for protecting kids right now? Is it us parents? Is it the technology companies? Is it the government? Is it law and regulation? Like, this is a massive debate that's happening all the time right now. And in the meantime, like, our kids are, growing up. And so we're kind of in this messy middle right now and if you think of a moment in time. And so right now it's unfortunately like our responsibility as parents, because there isn't really anything else yet very, very much in place. So what can we glean from the advice that is out there from experts? We know that like a lot of the experts out there want us to protect developing brains. They want us to protect time for these sort of essential childhood activities during childhood. We want to protect them from these kind of sticky tech products. So this is sort of what's out there in terms of advice right now. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt, who's the author of The Anxious Generation, if anyone has read that, he's sort of saying, hey, we have to delay that phone, like the smartphones, until age 14, because this is a mess right now. So he's out there sort of saying, hey, let's start this in high school. Then there's other people led by psychologist Jean Twenge, and she is sort of saying, hey, this should actually be like a driver's license. We shouldn't have a smartphone until age 16. And then there's another band of people that are led by Screen Strong and a couple other organizations. And they're sort of saying, you know what, there's actually no place in childhood for smartphones. We should wait until 18. So we could we could have a debate about what's the right thing. And there's a lot of variation out there, but there is a growing consensus that there isn't a place for it until at least high school. So that's kind of starting to emerge as we all sort of make sense of this tsunami. And then Lisa D'Amour, we just love, she's a clinical psychologist. She always has really amazing words of wisdom. And she said, look, delay this as long as you can until it's a social necessity. And we're calling that out because this is such a social beast, and that's part of the pressure. And then we're going to get into that in a minute. So just being realistic that at some point there's an overwhelming pressure for your kid to participate in the social fabric that they're in. But what we're trying to do is kind of delay that social necessity. Yeah, that's what I've got now here. Okay, so now we have experts saying, let's wait on this. So why is there this disconnect between the averages we've seen, age 11, 1 in 4, age 8, with what we're hearing from experts? And part of it is like, this is all so new. We're just getting our bearings. So that's part of it. We're in the process of kind of regrouping. But another part is just this kind of everyone elseism, like kids feel it, parents feel it. It feels like everyone has this. So like, it can't be that bad, or everyone else has one, so I want one. This is kind of the birth of this sort of social pressure that comes out for all of us. But what we want to just call out is like, we sort of normalized giving smartphones to kids. And now we need to kind of normalize not giving smartphones to kids. So as we regroup, we want to sort of have us focus on like, what are these, like, what's the most important part of childhood? And these are sort of some of the activities that we need to think of as kind of our North Star. And if we sort of prioritize these, then that's one way to kind of push some of the screens and phones out of the way. But we just really want to remind ourselves at this juncture to like kind of go back to these proven basics. We have decades and decades of research showing how important these activities are during childhood. These are like the essential nutrients. So we need to fiercely protect them from these kind of tsunami and screens and phones and all of this. So if we look at a few of them, we just really need to find ways to make sure our kids are active, they're interacting face-to-face with their friends, and with family, that they have ways to build things with their hands and kind of, develop the ability to know how their body works. And they need to be outside, because we know that nature is a really important antidote to stress and all kinds of stuff. We want to make sure that they are having chores and contributing, feeling like they're a contributing member to your family, and then ultimately to society. Sleep up in the upper right, like this is such a protective factor. And, if there was one thing you took away from tonight, like our number one rule is make sure there's no devices in bedrooms at night, whether it's a phone, any kind of internet enabled device, like clear it out of the bedroom and put an alarm clock in instead and charge them somewhere else. And then circling back around across the top, reading and learning. I mean, like one thing teachers are seeing is that kids like are not reading as much anymore. Once they have a phone to scroll, like the books just kind of go to the side. And so we have to be kind of ninja about this, and almost like figure out ways to maybe mandate reading, like whatever it is on this list that's really important to you and is kind of your call to action, like figure out how to kind of be that ninja to prioritize it against the kind of tsunami of technology. The last one here, navigating feelings. it's really easy for screens and phones to kind of be this pacifier, or like a kid's upset, hand them a phone, or I'm having a hard time, I look at my phone. And we really need, especially for kids, to kind of like practice being bored, like all those, like when you say no, you can't have that, like that's good for them. And to have these struggle and to have kind of emotional discomfort and sit with that and kind of process that. And that's like learning to be a human. So we need to make sure that the screens are not sort of taken away from those. So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is we can't let phones be kind of, we can't let these be the opportunity cost of time on the phone.
So what does all this mean for elementary school? We're here to talk about taking phones slowly. What that means in elementary school is that it should be mobile phone free, completely. If you look at how schools are today and maybe your own child, you might think that that's absolutely unobtainable. But it is obtainable piece by piece and class by class. So what we're asking elementary school parents to do right now is to do the hard work so that elementary school parents 5 years from now are not having to do the hard work. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But the problem is that the mistakes that we've made in the last 10 years is that we've simply given smartphones and devices without thinking it through. If any of you have older kids, my friends with kids that are older, that are 5 years older, they say, we didn't know. And I was like, well, I knew, but why didn't you not know? But a lot of people didn't know because of this everyone else-ism. And so a lot of people didn't know. The thing is, now we know. We don't necessarily have all the data yet, but we have enough data that it is important that we pay attention to it. What we really want you to do when you think about smartphones is to see them as a continuum, right? That this is this thing that your child at one point will have. But you want to look at it from 0 to 18, not this thing that's just about the smartphone. So making choices around smartphones starts as early as when you have a baby in the stroller and you give your smartphone to the baby who's annoyed and tired. The decisions that you make with toddlers can impact the whole trajectory of your child's life. And let me tell you, setting up guardrails around smartphone use is way easier with a screaming 2-year-old than it is with a very, very stubborn 16-year-old. So if you can start to see how you have this opportunity to start to build a foundation against what your rules around tech and smartphones are, the easier it will be. If you establish no phones in the bedrooms, no iPads in the bedrooms with 2nd and 3rd graders, by the time they're in middle school and you're maybe talking about smartphones, you talk about smartphones that still stay out of the bedroom at night. So yes, we want you to keep elementary school phone free. If we could wave our hand and say that this is how it's going to be, we would do that, but we can't. It's going to take some time. What we want parents to remember is that every year that you delay giving a smartphone, you give your child the opportunity to build the muscles to deal with these things. Every 6 months you wait, every school grade that you wait, you are buying yourself time for them to grow a little, to mature a little, and have more ability to deal with these devices because they will deal with them. They are coming. So what do we offer to elementary school parents who say, but I need some sort of communication device in elementary school, or I want my child to be more independent, but I really need to know where they are? Well, we've got some options. Don't laugh at walkie-talkies. We've actually seen this work, like really good walkie-talkies. The holidays are coming. Think about investing in a good set. And we've seen this in small communities in Marin. We've seen it in stories from across the US, that it gives kids this sense of autonomy. It teaches them to change the batteries. It teaches them to keep them and put them in the same place so that they know where they are. It teaches them how to very quickly give a message without seeing too many words. So see these things as building blocks. So if you have TK through 3rd graders who are wanting to explore their neighborhoods and you're in a place where this works, give the walkie-talkies a try. Landlines are taking it. They are just having a moment right now. How many people have heard about the tin can? Anyone heard about the tin can? The tin can is a new device. You can see it in the middle there. It was developed by parents in Seattle, Washington, who wanted to delay smartphones. And they were inspired by the tin can and string that maybe many of us tried when we were young. They have sold out twice. They are everywhere. They're all over social media. They're in the news. They're going national. They're a really fun way to start letting kids communicate with their friends. You can teach skills like learning and remembering phone numbers. Like that's something we don't do anymore. You can learn, I mean, I don't even think I know my mom's number. You can learn when to call. Like we don't call after 7 p.m. Or here's what it's like when you say something on the phone and you don't see somebody's face and reaction. So all of these little things are building muscles for mobile communication at one point. And then what we really, really want you to do in elementary school is encourage and prioritize in-person, face-to-face communication. No devices, no phones, just face-to-face, keeping it in real life. Now, how many of you have 4th and 5th graders again? I can't remember who. What I'm just saying and what I'm asking to do can get trickier in 4th and 5th grade. There's a transition that happens around that age where children want more independence. Parents want to let them have more independence. The social circle is getting more important than the dynamic between parents. Kids are becoming very, very social and want to connect. I don't know if you remember what it was like for you when you were in 4th and 5th grade. That developmental transition hasn't changed. It's the same as it happened for us, only that we're solving it with a smartphone. So what do we do in those times of transition? Because it can go very quickly. This quote from the mom of a 6th grader ends like this. It started with wanting group texting on our family iPad. Then she requested Snapchat on the iPad. And then she requested her own phone because she said she was the only one without one. And all of this happened between Halloween and Thanksgiving. There was so much fighting. There was so much stress. We didn't talk about anything else. This totally derailed our family. We were completely not prepared. So the thing is, if we all delay and as a community make choices, the trickiness of the 4th and 5th grade transition also gets delayed. All right, smartwatches. If parents in elementary school really, really, really absolutely need an on-the-go device, our recommendation is to go with a smartwatch that's developed for kids. I'm not going to spend too much time going into this for 2 reasons. One, they're changing all the time. 2, when Dabney and I had elementary school kiddos, these didn't exist. And so it's really hard for us, like it wasn't an option, so we didn't think about it. For parents now, there are so many different options. But what we really want you to think about is that you need to do the homework and really spend the time before you decide what's the right thing for your family. None of them are perfect. They all require some sort of setup. Some of them require different pieces. But what we really want you to think about is that giving a watch will potentially buy some more time.
Okay, so now we want to really talk about sort of community, because community is our antidote, because we were talking about how this is a social beast. So collective action is this term that's, whirling out there that sort of came from the Anxious Generation book. How with a collective trap problem, you need to take collective action. So if we as parents, especially with people with kids the same age, if you can kind of get together and say, hey, I'm really struggling. Are you really struggling? Or like, how are you handling this? And we can kind of remove shame and judgment and just say, hey, let's have a conversation. We're kind of on the same team and we're all in this crazy world right now. How can we sort of find common ground and maybe help each other out, take the pressure off ourselves and off our kids? So this picture we just like because it's so much harder to do this on your own, to delay a phone, especially with the example of that kid coming home and being like, everyone else has it. And by the way, kids always say that, and it's not true, but they all do that. They're like, yeah, and they feel that way. But if you get together with your grade level or class or friend group or whatever is kind of a hyper-local community orbit that you're part of, and talk together and say, hey, we're all going to delay together, then all of a sudden it's just much easier. So this is just, we're just calling out like, this is how you delay the social necessity. And this can happen in your school, as we said, in your friend group, or you can also look around this room and say, who else is here? And kind of, do you know anyone here? And maybe you can have a follow-up conversation after tonight. So now we want you to think about how you take that kind of collective action mindset to both tech decisions that come your way, and then next also kind of getting your kids more in real life, because this is like a two-pronged battle. We need like a multi-angle tactic here. So if you think about tech decisions, we've seen a lot of people, actually, as Alex said, like I was just talking to a third grade parent who their whole third grade class is like giving tin cans for the holidays. So there's people that are doing this, they're making it happen. It's cool. It's like this kind of throwback vibe. And so there's people doing that. We're also hearing of people saying, hey, anyone want to come over for a happy hour or like for a coffee, and let's research smartwatches and basic phones and figure out something we can all do together, with the idea that maybe if it's kind of like everyone else has one, that's some, really basic thing that kind of works in your favor. There's also a national tool called Wait Until 8th. It's like a pact you can join and sign, and then it lets you know when at least 10 people from your grade in your school have also agreed to kind of wait until at least 8th grade for a smartphone, and then you can communicate with each other. But you do need to follow up and communicate with those people and say, hey, what's our game plan here? And then, there's so much more to it than this. Like, obviously, we were talking about video games at the beginning, and texting, like a lot of times texting just sort of, it's like, what happened? How did that just all of a sudden, like a kid has texting, and then someone, like the family walks away from the iPad, comes back, and there's like 300 messages, and it's all like, hey, 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 poop emoji. Like, it's totally insane. All the 4th and 5th grade parents are complaining, and they're like, this is crazy. How do we get rid of this? So again, if that's something you can get ahead of and say, hey, we're not going to do that in our grade, like these are just helpful conversations, again, to keep your sanity. So then think about this sort of collective action approach also with how can you get your kids together more in real life? Like, I think there's still a recovery from kind of COVID, and habits got all out of whack, and people are just sort of more at home, and maybe it's the same in your neighborhood. Like, you got to kind of get some juice into all this. So again, we have to get kind of savvy and collective about it. So one example, I know a mom who ended up reaching out to her kids' friend group and said, hey, can we all, like, instead of signing up for soccer or something, can we all keep Wednesdays clear? And everyone, like the kids will just meet up after school on the blacktop, and they'll walk over to the little park, play without any supervision, and then everyone has to be home by 6. And they kind of figured out how to make everyone comfortable with that, and they implemented it, and they did it for the next 2 years. So screen-free play dates, you can put a basket by your front door and just be very matter of fact. Hey, in our house, if you've got something, to put it in here, please. Welcome, here's cookies, And I was just talking to a 6th grade dad who was just helping to facilitate kids getting together on like a Friday night. Like, hey, I'll take this Friday. Can someone else do next Friday? Or like, maybe we take them to the movies, or maybe we go to the beach, or whatever it is that's in the kind of orbit of fun for how old your kid is. So yeah, these are just some examples.
Giving a smartphone to your child changes absolutely everything. So I deal with this content every day. My children hear me dealing with this content every day. I was not prepared for how many things would be impacted by a smartphone when we gave a simple slimmed down iPhone to our now 16-year-old when he was at the end of 7th grade. Teeth brushing changed. Having to yell across the house that it's dinner time because of these stupid earbuds changed. Getting dressed in the morning changed. Showers became really, really long because there was now music that was happening in the shower. It was literally like this barnacle that just moved with him wherever he went. What we want you to do and what we need to do is to delay the social necessities for these phones. That way we delay having to say yes. Let me say that again. By delaying the social necessity, we delay having to say yes to a phone. That makes it much easier for parents. So when you do get to introducing a phone, which if we could, we would say that should be in high school sometime, we really want you to figure out if your child is ready and you are ready for the actual new and additional parenting responsibility. We want you to take giving your child a phone very, very seriously, and we want you to take it very, very slowly. So what does that mean, introducing a mobile phone slowly? So again, this is a talk for elementary students, but like we said before, we want you to understand the trajectory of what going slowly looks like. What that looks like is when you want to introduce a mobile phone, have it be about slow tech, not no tech. You don't want to delay it at all, but you can say this is what your child needs, defining what your child needs, and keep it as simple as possible. Start with boring. We used to call them simple phones, but our kids were like, they're just boring. But a boring phone gets forgotten at home all the time. And a boring phone doesn't go into the shower with you. And a boring phone stays in the car. And a boring phone just does not have the same draw as the phone with all these fancy bells and whistles. We want you to start with basic communication tools. We want to hold off on the time zapping apps. So those are social media, YouTube, open web browsing, and video games. They're assigned to be addictive. And you need to coach and teach use. This is something that has to come with rolling out a phone. So what does that look like? Sample basic phone options. We're showing you this so that you can see what a slow progression might be to a smartphone. We want you to do your homework. And you have to do your homework because these devices are changing all the time, and the hardware and the software is changing all the time. So just because you purchase one device doesn't mean it's going to be what the device stays as. So the longer you wait, the less you have to do this homework. And it is possible to set up an iPhone and Apple devices to be simple. It takes a whole lot of parental vigilance and fortitude and time. When Dabney and I and Rebecca, who's our third partner, when our kids were at the end of middle school and we were choosing, there were not all of these different smartphones and devices for kids. So we all collectively decided that we would roll out Apple products. It's what our family used. It made it easier. We talk about Apple products all the time, iOS settings. So it's not for the faint of heart. It's possible, but it does take time. So in summary, what is it that we want you to do? Look, there's no path that's perfect. They're all difficult. They all have their challenges. They will take your time. And building community around this is really the only way to make this bearable. It's not going to make it better. It's not going to make it go away, but it does make it easier. So remember, we want you to think of the phone journey from 0 to 18, to think of it as an arc of how you are relating to these devices. You don't go from one phone to a smartphone with all the bells and whistles without taking the steps in between. We want you to take it slow and intentionally, start minimally, and figure out how you can stretch and buy yourself as much time as possible, and absolutely fiercely protect those in real life childhood essentials.
Just a couple of remaining slides, and then we're going to Q&A. We just want you to know we have a website, screensense.org. And on the upper right, you can translate it. It translates to Spanish or English. And we have a lot of resources, and kind of the hope is to sort of lean in with you, and that you can come at any hour. If you wake up at 2 a.m. and you're freaking out about whatever's just happened, you can come to our website. Reach out to us anytime. We're literally here. We're a short drive away from Petaluma. And we care deeply about supporting you. So yeah, Spanish, it's free, always on. We also have a couple of other resources. So once a month, we send out an email. It's like a newsletter, and it's called One Step Towards Healthy Tech Use, with the idea that this is a complex, part of parenting in today's digital world. And we're giving you kind of one step at a time, just like zooming in on one little thing to kind of work on that month. So if you're interested and you sign up with us, you'll get that once a month. And then we also created kind of a packet to go with this event. So there's a QR code. There's also a sample of it over there so on that counter over there, we have a few handouts. We have a sample of the packet, and then the QR codes are also over there if this doesn't work. But we have, there's a bunch of guidance in there. And we are coming back next week to talk about social media. That's a fun one. And I think that's it. Is that our last? Yeah. And we just threw a lot at you. So thank you for your patience. We will, yeah.
Do you have any tips to kind of reverse the process if you've already provided smartphones to your children?
So this question was, do you have any tips for how to kind of reel it in if you're already out
Reeled it
there?
out.
Yeah, reeled it out. We do, actually, one of our, yeah. It's good
We
to see.
do.
Well, let me just look at this for a second. So over there's a handout for smartphones. This is really for like down the road, if you're getting to the point of, let's say you're going to do an iPhone or some kind of smartphone, that also just to stretch that out, again, starting with nothing on it and very slowly being like, okay, now maybe we're going to add one app. Okay, maybe we're going to add one game with a time limit, or like there's just all these ways you can slow it down. So this thing, if you think about it from reeling in, you could look at it from that perspective. So like, for example, if there was a bunch, you could sit down with how old is like, what's a rough age? Yeah. So you could be like, which of these is really important to you because there's too much noise on here and we want to take things off. Like I would definitely have a conversation and say, let's pick one of these or even set it up as an experiment. Hey, let's try to take everything off this and try that for 1 week, like not, just as an experiment. And then we add one that you're really missing, or, there's lots of ways you could do that, but maybe having the kid pick out one that you want to try. And hey, or you can set a time limit on something. So those are some ideas. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, one other thing, definitely don't go home and say, I listened to these two ladies. And they said that we should reel this in, so give me that phone and like we're done here. Like, don't do that. Because that's totally gonna backfire.
Yeah.
So I would first, if you're co-parenting or have a parent, like we've both done that and that doesn't work. So I would first with your co-parent kind of sit and say, what about this use is the most challenging? Like
Mhm.
if you have access to the internet and the app store is on there so that they can download anything that they want to, that there's YouTube, that there's a social media app already, or Netflix or video games, like which one of those things is the most problematic for you? Like, and then start with one and then engage them in the conversation. A fourth grader is savvy enough that they're going to want to be part of the conversation. And this is important to do that. So to really engage them in the packet that we're sending you, there's a few video links. It says links from the presentation at the bottom. There's 3 links of videos that are actually pretty clever to watch with your kids. There's a new public service announcement from the Smartphone Free Childhood US, which is really clever. It literally has a kid in their bedroom and it has anyway, it's really funny and kids get it too.
Yeah.
And it just like it's just really clever. It's a really clever visual way to talk to your child about, look what's on this device. Like this is, so that might be the place to start. There's also a book over there that there might be ways that you can just engage talking with your child. Just start really small. Just start one little piece at a time. Anyone else?
Anyone else have ideas to add to that?
Yeah.
A parent of a 6th grader and a 1st grader, I wasn't even thinking about the conversation with her later, but going into junior high soon and like kind of the trend within the last few years of like, you graduated elementary school, here's a phone, like, I feel like there's more of like slowing it down, but what I'm hearing as I'm starting to tour junior highs is like, the phones at school aren't an issue. It's like the social aspect at home. So, and then just now starting to feel like she doesn't know half of the things that other kids are talking about, like brain rot words that are being just
6, 7.
Yeah, 6, 7,
It's like,
6,
what is
7.
that? Like, yeah, exactly. She's like, what is 6, 7?
I don't know what it means either.
So like, I guess the question is there like some way to like make sense of, other than just setting up like in-person dates that we try to do, but like everybody's busy schedule, to like make them not feel like an outcast kind of, because that's kind of the challenge, I guess, a little bit of like all of this social stuff is
Yeah.
happening on the screen now with junior high kids when they can't be together.
Yeah. So for those of you at home, the question was for junior high kids, there seems to be a norm that we've developed that you get a smartphone as sort of a 5th grade graduation gift, which please don't do that. Like just don't do it. And that, but that the next level up of that is that the socializing is around this tech content, around memes, around the newest thing. What did we talk about? Zora. Anyone know what Zora is? Oh yeah. It's the new Chat GPT video making that you put people's pictures in, and all of a sudden you have a video of like 2 people from your school making out with each other, and it's not real. Yeah, so that happened yesterday.
That's coming.
That's yesterday. We don't even know how to deal with that yet. But this is what the intel we get from our 16-year-olds. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I have one idea. Is maybe sharing some of the content through your own device.
Yeah,
So not giving it to your kid, but saying, hey, like you're really curious about TikTok. I'm just making an example. Let's sit down and look at it together. And then you're kind of looking at it and you can be like, whoa, that's garbage. Or like, whoa, what do you think of that? Or you also get more informed if you're not a TikTok user yourself, because it is good to know what our kids are using and be familiar with it. Again, the feed you get is not going to be what a 12-year-old girl gets just because it's so twisted out there. But it's still a start. And you can say, hey, let's look something up together. What are you curious about? And like almost make it sort of fun. Like it's maybe a chance to connect in a kind of a tech positive way around this, because so much of it can be sort of hard. So I guess that would be one way to do it. Yeah.
I think 2 other suggestions too is if you're trying to do like in real life things and getting kids together, is that it just sometimes takes more effort, right? It might be that you have to be the one to offer your house to be the place where they're going to come. It might be that you have to be the one to drive them to the mall on a Saturday afternoon. So it might take more effort on our parts to get this going. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The other option is if you have families around you that have older kids, like teenagers or babysitters, like let them be the teachers of the content, right? So like if there's something that your daughter hears at school and she'd like to know what it is, just be like, hey, can we look up, I don't know, I don't even know what to call it, but look up so-and-so, and then you put that in Google or you put it in YouTube, and you might just all of a sudden see what it is. So kind of getting curious about it yourself might be a way that you can learn about it together. I saw another hand up there somewhere.
I would just note, my daughter's in 7th grade and she's at Valley Vista Public Waldorf, and it is not the norm that students are communicating. Or, I mean, they're aware of things that I'm not aware of, memes and those kinds of things, but that class that I lucked into getting into, they already had established it. We came in 6th grade, that's their middle school, 6th through 8th. And the parents had already come together pretty much. There are still some kids who have smartphones, but on the whole, they've already done that work. And it is such a lovely group to be in.
Yeah.
With community, that we're not the only family that doesn't have a phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be done, is what I'm saying, that it's not every 7th and 8th
Yeah.
grade in the town.
Yeah, and it can be done. And honestly, it takes one person. And it might mean that it takes one person who gets 3 other people, right? Like this might start really small and take a whole lot of time. We have a lovely example from Mill Valley, which is that last year's 5th graders. So we have a few parents who came together. There are 5 elementary schools in Mill Valley that all feed into one middle school. All the 5th grades had a big push to delay smartphones, to not give phones as a 5th grade graduation present. And now the 6th grade at Mill Valley Middle School is visibly without smartphones. Like literally the teachers see it, people see it. And so is the next year 5th grade going to do the same thing? We hope so. That's where it helps to get your school admins involved so that it becomes a school ethos, like at a Waldorf school, for example, but it is possible.
I just want to add one thing, and that was a very scrappy effort, like, hey, who knows somebody at that school? And just kind of grassroots. And that's kind of what this calls for. And don't be afraid to start a conversation. Everyone wants to talk about this issue, wants to talk about technology, wants to talk about phones. And it's really hard for parents to start a conversation because it's so thorny, or anything that's in the kind of parenting department people are like, I don't want to, like, I don't want to sound judgy. And that's not what, again, if you're starting that conversation from, we're really struggling, are you? Like, that's always a good, on ramp, even if you're not really struggling, whatever. But like, it's yeah, I guess I just invite each of you here to go back and be the person who starts a conversation about this or says, hey, let's get together and talk about this. Because we need more of that. We need to normalize talking about this.
We need to take the pebble out of our shoe and like throw it in the river and like watch, so that like if every person in this room went and talked to 5 people and those 5 people talked to somebody else, like that's how this is going to shift.
Mhm.
Yes, hand in the back.
We have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old,
Mhm.
and the 14-year-old got a phone when he was 13. He was the last one in his class to get one.
Yep.
And I wrote a 3-page contract that we sat down with him and explained,
Yeah.
not just like proper etiquette when you're at a table and not how you're simple things like that, prioritizing the life situations, but like copyright infringement.
Yeah. Don't send naked pictures. Boom. Start with that one. Yeah.
What is bullying? So, it's an ongoing conversation with our child, but it really would help our family meet that expectations. I learned a lot when I was 17, and there's still so much for the 14-year-old. Like, there's a lot of boundaries still to be set in a family, but I highly recommend this idea of like setting a lot of boundaries and writing, and then I know it's not a legally binding contract because it's a child. Like fully into it.
So that comment for the,
There's a lot more than just, I can text my friends now. There's so many different considerations in that device.
Yeah.
That has real hard repercussions that none of us faced in our head.
correct.
And so, I think it was really important to communicate with him. And then we had the paper be like, no, look right here, you signed this. You don't get social media yet.
Yeah. So for
It
the,
wasn't perfect, but it did help, and I highly recommend it.
for the people at home, this mom shared that her 14-year-old, when they introduced a smartphone, they used a contract that was like 3 pages long and just covered all the pieces that come with this device, because there are actually more pieces than people really they underestimate how many pieces there are. We don't yet have a contract on our website, but we're working on it. So check back in a couple weeks, but we are hoping to have a pretty simple one. It doesn't need to be like 78 pages long. It can be like a couple.
That's great. I love that you did that. And it's a great, just in line with that, there's this book that's nice and thick called Kids, Brains and Screens. And totally recommend buying this or buying it with and sharing it with a bunch of people and passing it around. And before being like, as part of that contract, before you can have this, if you're at the point where you're doing this, you need to go through this entire thing and understand how your brain works and what the design of this is. This is like a curriculum for students that some schools are using, but also you can just use it at home. And I know some people, actually it's getting more and more popular. I know some parents that it's like bedtime reading. Okay, let's read another chapter, Or,
you pick out, like, if there's a
Yeah.
topic, there's also an online version with videos, but it's like the driver's ed. Like, this is your version
Yeah.
of driver's ed for phones and devices.
And this is only, this type of stuff's going to grow, right? Again, we're at that awkward moment where it's like, we need to regroup. And so things are coming out that are more helpful, but this is kind of the best we found at the moment.
Anything else? Yes.
On the note that things are going to grow, I've been studying this for the last 5 years, and the resources for parents has boomed.
Yeah.
There's Screen Sense, Screen Sanity I brought to the high school yesterday. Nobody showed up. Unfortunately, we had to postpone, but they have a contract that's very simple. So there's so many resources for parents now just to help them. So.
Yes. So for those of you at home, they said the comment was that things have changed so drastically and there are so many more resources for parents. We see this too. 2 years ago, when we talked with school administrators about bringing our content to schools, the response was, tech's here, kids have to learn how to deal with it. That was a very normal response. And now we're getting, the tech is really overwhelming. We need help and we need to get it out of our schools. So like the shift to setting up boundaries is becoming more and more of the norm. And that's what we mean about changing norms around tech use. Anything else? I think we've got some closing remarks.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. We are going to stick around for a while, so if anyone has questions.
Well, that was wonderful. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Ramona Faith, and I'm the CEO of Healthy Petaluma. And Healthy Petaluma has been working on providing this information for several months. And I want to just once again thank our partners. The Blue Zones Project Petaluma team was phenomenal. Thank you so much. The Design Guild and Bianca, our Studio PR, PEF, thank you, Maureen. I also want to thank the schools, because like Matthew said in the beginning, this started with a school conversation. I sent out a letter to the schools last year sharing the concern that we had on the health and well-being of the students within our community. And knowing that the governor was coming down with some regulations that wanted the schools to mitigate cell phone use at schools. And we do hear from teachers that say they're very distracting, and they are distracting on campus. But St. Vincent's, Petaluma City Schools, and Old Adobe reached back out to us and said, we need your help. We'd like you to provide some education to our parents and to our educators on how we can help mitigate, not only at school, but also at home. So thank you, because this is the beginning of more educations, and it's also hopefully going to stimulate ongoing conversation, because it's not something that we can solve tonight. It's very complex. It's based on individual families' needs. And so, and I just want to commend all of you, because everyone in this room is very focused on the health and well-being of kids and youth in our community. And it's just a wonderful community to be a part of. I also just want to share, if you want to know anything more about Healthy Petaluma, please visit our website, healthypetaluma.org. We have newsletters, you can learn about our partnerships, you can learn about the work that we're doing in community. So please visit our website to learn more about us. I do have a couple strategic plans there if anybody's interested. I also wanted to share that in talking to the county, this is on another issue, in talking to Sonoma County, since I have parents in the room, our childhood immunizations are lower than the rest of the county in southern Sonoma County. So I just want to encourage the parents to try to talk to their doctors and try to make sure you keep up to date with your childhood immunizations, right? As well as October through March is the time that we're going to get the flus and all that kind of stuff, COVID. So we have flyers out there on the table to talk a little bit more about encouraging people to get their vaccinations so we can all stay healthy. So thank you again for being here. We do have another session Wednesday. It's going to be social media, how to reel it in. And it's going to be a very engaging conversation, I'm sure, but yeah, a little bit scarier. I know it's hard, but you know what? We said it in the beginning, we're here because we want to keep our kids healthy. And technology is here to stay, but we do have to figure out a way to mitigate it. And it's not just at school, it's also at home. So they're here to answer some questions. I know there's food in the back. Thank you so much for being here. We had a great turnout. Thank you for all the folks that are online. And I have to be honest, I gave them my cell phone number in case there was troubles getting online. I turned it off and it's in the back. That's terrible. Because Elise is always telling me, turn your phone off. I turn it off. So Matthew, I don't know what to tell you. Thank you, everybody. Good night.